Hello and welcome to Polyplane.com. In the next two videos we're going to be taking some time to talk about arrays. Simply put, an array is just organized distribution. It doesn't matter if you're talking about people, places, things, ideas, doesn't matter. But for our purposes, we're going to be talking about geometry. I've got a really hard fact for you today. Computers are better than you at repetition. They can do things over and over and over again for as long as they have power. It's just what they're made to do. But the cool thing is, you can tell them what to do over and over again. What if I wanted to copy this point and have it be perfectly spaced? Well, I could try to do this by hand, and that spacing's okay, but it's not perfect. If I want it perfect, it'd be better if I used an array. What an array command does is tells the computer, take an object and make a copy of it, and do that over and over again for a specified distance and sequence. If I were to array this dot 4 times, it might look like this. But what if I wanted to array it in more than just one axis? What if I wanted to array it in an X and Y? Well, you can do that. You just have to tell the computer from where to where and how many, and then how many in each axis. What I like to do is specify the bottom left corner of the first copy that I'm going to make. And if I'm doing this in 2 or more dimensions, what I'll do is I'll take that bottom corner and that'll be my first reference point. And then I'll click out to a second corner out here somewhere. Just making sure that they're distributed how I need them to be. So in this case, it'll wind up looking like this. Now this is what's known as a common array. It's pretty rectilinear, not too interesting, but it's very useful for distributing shapes evenly through space in 2 to 3 axes. Another common array type is called polar array, which you are arraying something around a circle. In this case, I've taken our point and I've arrayed it multiple times around a circle. Now you can specify the distance between these points, or you can even specify the number of copies you want and it'll evenly distribute them along the circle. So here's what this looks like in Rhino. I have an object, a sphere in this case, at 0, 0, 0, and I want to array 4 copies in the X, 4 copies in the Y, and 4 copies in the Z. So I can do this a couple of ways. My first option is to come over here to the toolbar, click on this icon where it says move, hold it down, go over to transform, come down to this icon, and hit array. This is a little cumbersome, but here are your array tools. I would actually recommend just typing in array, and then you'll see your options for different ways to array come up. Another way to do this is to go up to the top toolbar, click on transform, and then go down to array. So I typed array, and it's asking me for the objects. So I'm going to select my sphere and hit enter. And now this is where it gets a little fun. It's asking me for the number in the X, so I'm going to do 4. And in Y, I want 4. And then in Z, I want 4. And now it's asking for the unit cell or spacing. Now I could just type in 3, 3, 3, and that'll give me a perfect array. But I want to show you another option. Sometimes you don't exactly know what dimension left to right and top to bottom that you need. If I type array again, 4, 4, 4, and it's asking me for the unit cell or spacing. Unit cell just means what I showed you before, where you're taking the bottom left boundary line of your object and then dragging it up to your next one. And it'll do what it's got to do. I want to input each one of these measurements independently. So where it says unit cell or X spacing, it's asking me how far out on the X do I want to space these things out? Well, I only want them 2 inches on the X. And for Y, I really only want them 1. And then for Z, I want them 4. So you can see how that ordered distribution works just by changing around each one of those numbers. Now let's take a look at a polar array. In order to do this, you can pick a point where this object will be copied around, but I want to do this a little more controlled. So I'm going to pick this point here and come over to my object. And let's say that circle already existed and I wanted to array things along that circle. Now I could do this with an array curve, but I want pretty specific dimensions as far as my diameter, and I'm just showing you one other option for how this would work. So the way this works is you want to select polar array or type array polar, select your object, hit enter, select the center of the polar array. We're going to use the circle as a reference point. And then it's asking me for the number of items. I've got 25 in there, that sounds good. And it's asking me for the angle to fill. I'm going to do 180 just to show you what that looks like. So you can see only half the circle is filled and there's 25 items there. What if I wanted to do that same amount of items, but I wanted to fill the whole circle? What I would do is repeat the command, select my circle, select the center, number of items 25, and then type 360. And that'll give me an even distribution in a circular format. Now, one thing you might notice is that the isocurve or control curve of the sphere is a little off perpendicular to the curve. And I wanted to show you this because I want you to understand the idea of object orientation. When an object receives the command polar array, it's going to array around the circle with its orientation staying the same in that circle. Let me make this a little more clear. If I draw a rectangular shape here, bring that out, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And now I want to array this in the same spot as my spheres, 25, 360. You can see it twists along the circle. This is because the orientation is the same in polar array. So if you want this to be more even, you need to rotate it. And now when you do the command, it'll be nice and evenly distributed. Keep that in mind when you're performing a polar array. So those were the first two arrays that I wanted to talk about. Stay tuned for the next video, where we'll be talking about arraying along a curve and arraying along a surface. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.